We're staring into the face of a very ugly future, according to a draft government report on climate change put together by a panel of scientists and others from 13 different federal agencies. The 545-page report paints a dire picture of the effects of climate change across the country. And here in the Northeast, things are looking worse than even just 3 years ago. The report says the average annual temperature in the region has risen about 2 degrees over the past century, and those temperatures could climb by another 9 degrees by the year 2071. Then there are the sea levels, which this new report projects could rise by more than 8 feet globally by 2100, plus more rain, more snow, and more extreme weather across the country. Of course, that's all assuming we don't do anything to stop it. As the report declares, we humans and our greenhouse gases are the primary cause of all this. But right now, this is just a draft report, which the Trump administration has not yet officially approved. The administration headed by the man who tweeted back in 2012, as you'll remember, the concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. That tweet aside, they have until August 18th to decide whether to release a final version of the report. And for now, the official party line is the White House does not comment on draft reports before they are released. So where do we go from here? I'm joined now by Gina McCarthy, former administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency under Barack Obama. It's very good to see you again.
It's great to be back, Jim. Thanks.
How did Donald Trump and your successor, Scott Pruitt, explain away a government report that essentially undercuts all of their climate-denying assertions? How do they do that?
Well, we'll have to wait and see what they do. But this report is pretty clear, and it is moving in the same direction as the science we knew before. It's just even stronger today.
Why is New England stuck out? We have now read, now that we've seen excerpts, even worse than some parts. Why is New England particularly hard hit by this trend that we're experiencing?
Well, I can't name all of the underlying science, but every part of the world has different pressures on its climate system. And so you have to look at each region individually, which the scientists did, to look at its tilt from the sun, its tilt in its axis, how the jet stream works. I mean, many things impact climate. But the simple fact is that we're all impacted today by climate change, and it's going to get worse unless we take some very serious action.
You know, harkening back to my first question, how do they explain this away? Do you worry that before this is released, assuming it is, that it's going to be cooked in some fashion by the administration?
Well, clearly some of the scientists were worried about that, and I think they had
Which is why they leaked it to the New York Times.
Well, they wanted to definitely call attention to it before decisions got made so people could see what it actually said based on the science. And the issue that they're facing is they have an administration that has denied climate science. It's taken climate science off the EPA webpage. It's looking to get rid of scientists and not invest in science because apparently they're not giving them the answers they need.
And the Department of Agriculture, we just read, says that its employees cannot use the term climate change. They have to say extreme weather because it's less charged. So even changing the lexicon about how this is discussed.
But I don't think you can keep climate change under wraps. I mean, we're feeling it today. We can see that the last decades have been as warmer than the last 1,200 years. I mean, there's no hiding this, and I think the real challenge is that people are a little bit complacent about that. Yes, they see the climate changing, but the climate isn't about polar bears, Jim. I mean, I like polar bears, but it's about our kids and their future. This is serious stuff.
Well, it's about asthma today in major American cities.
It's about
not just
pandemics.
Exactly.
It's, you know, this is about real change and real people.
You know, Gina McCarthy, to me, I don't know any of these people. I just read about them. The real heroes, and you knew so many of them, are these career scientists who work for you by the hundreds, who have been ridiculed, some transferred to accounting departments, some How do they go to work every day when they've always played it straight? It's not Democratic or Republican. It's always, how do they go to work knowing that their bosses just don't believe in science?
Jim, I've worked for 5 Republican governors and 1 Democratic governor, and then I worked for a Democratic president. And you expect to have fluctuations in policy. You're supposed to allow people to make decisions who get elected, but you're not supposed to politically influence science. You're not supposed to reject the expertise of the career staff. It's it's tough for them. A lot of them, are leaving. But the most important thing is that the career staff and their expertise can't be lost. They need to be listened to. I don't want them to leave.
No, nor do I, or I hope most Americans. Last time you were here in March, you said that you followed the tradition that virtually all secretaries follow in administration. You call your successor and offer to help him or her. Scott Pruitt hadn't called you back. Has he called you back yet?
Not yet, and I'm no longer holding my breath.
A lot of, even if you don't agree with the agenda, a lot of secretaries have been completely inept, in my estimation, in carrying out the Trump agenda. It seems to me one dramatic exception to that is Scott Pruitt, who has really had his eyes on the prize here. How much of the Obama legacy, with which Donald Trump seems to be obsessed, how much of the Obama environmental legacy has Pruitt begun to roll back?
Yeah. Well, he's rolling back or attempting to or announcing he's going to virtually everything that we did the past 8 years. But it's not just climate change. This is really fundamental air quality, water quality
water,
issues.
I know we discussed that last time.
It's pretty amazing. But there's a process here. I want people to be worried, but I don't want them to be complacent. Everything that he's done that has been a shortcut, that went to the courts crawled foul and sent it back. They have to go through a rulemaking process. And people need to get engaged. And what's exciting to me, Jim, is maybe people are sitting up and realizing that I got to do something. I have to be an active citizen. Democracy doesn't work without it.
When you say you have to be an active citizen, we need active leaders. You were here before the the United States pulled out of the climate accord. A couple of weeks ago on the radio, we spoke to Bill McKibben, who really started this whole thing with the end of nature 27 years ago. And I have to say, he was much more hopeful than I thought, saying what now all people like you are saying. It is what it is. States and cities, local leaders have to pick up the slack. Is that real, or is that just pipe dream stuff?
Well, it is actually real, and it doesn't mean that we're not disappointed in what's going on, but the energy market is set. The investments that the utilities are making are not investments in coal. No president is going to turn around the energy market because he makes an announcement. And that's what they're essentially trying to say. And so you have to look at what's happening now and what the future is. And the future is clean energy. Businesses tried to tell them that. All the major CEOs, investors that represented trillions of dollars in investments are saying, Mr. President, we're looking at a future, and that's where it is. The international community recognizes it. It's an embarrassment that we're not there. But the energy train's left the station. There's no way it's going to go back.
One woman keeping hope alive. Gina McCarthy, it is great to see you.
You
Thank
too.
you so much for your time. I appreciate it.